Hello everyone, so this is the second part of my video. The first part I did without sound and I decided to do the second part with the sound. So I'm painting May tree this time, and it's one of my favorite spring blooms. It always brings me memories of spring from my childhood when I used to be in my grandparents' village, and this smell is so intoxicating for me. I know some people can't stand it, but for me it's one of my favorite spring smells. So I'll just explain what I did in the first video. I'm not sure if I do voiceover for that, I just leave it without sound. So I did a very simple drawing first, and then I did blocking, and I did this first part of the branch. I know that there is some glare on this part now, that's why I'm going to work on this one. So the main colors I used for my background, it's kind of light purple, and I will show the photo in the end of my setup. So it's alizarin, ultramarine blue, brown and white with different proportions depending on how dark and how light. And then I did my jar. So I'm just going to correct some drawing. Like normally I correct drawing in the end. Sometimes I even photograph the painting and when I see, so normally I get some geometrical shapes wrong, but if I focus on them too much at the time of painting, I will not enjoy painting as much. So that's what I did. So I did a jar, and I wanted to show how I do water. So really there is no any secret in that. It's just you just look at and see and paint what you see. So for me actually it's one of my favorite subjects to paint water, because you never have the same reflection or light. Even if you paint the same jar, even in the same light, it's always something different depending on your setup. So in this particular case I have cool light, and I have this purple background, and when this purple background reflects into the water, it gets a little bit, and I also have a wooden board, so when it all reflects, it gets a little bit kind of purple brown color in the jar. And at the same time there are spaces where it's free from water, so it's a little bit lighter color. But from what I know, that you should paint water a little bit darker and a little bit warmer, but it's not always the case. So I'm trying to, even though I know that, I'm trying to paint it as I see, because that's kind of how you should paint. Trust your own eye. So I'll continue with my painting at this point. So for May tree, for leaves I used viridian and brown as dark leaves, and then I used emerald green and cadmium yellow deep for lighter parts. And then I also have on my palette different yellows like cadmium yellow deep and cadmium lemon. I'm using it in different shades of my flowers as well. So I will probably start from my second one, but before that I'll just fix just a little bit what I didn't finish on my first branch. So before that I did a big basket of different spring blooms together, and May tree was one of them, so I have some left over, and then I saw how nice it looks in the vase, so I thought, okay, I may try to do this one. So, and to my combinations of greens I also add some white sometimes, depending on how light the leaves, and I'm trying to squint. So I think I will start refining a little bit my brightest flowers on the first branch, and then I'll go to the second. So just a little and then I will tell what kind of paints I used on my tree. So I'm trying to focus now. So I think that's about it in terms of brightest. So I will just do a little bit of flowers in the dark. So in the dark I used different combinations of viridian and brown and white and cut yellow deep. So some of them a little darker, some of them a little lighter, depending where they are and how I see them. Viridian is a warmer green, so I'm using it in shadows here. It's not as bright and not jumps at you as much as emerald green, but still quite strong green. I bought it last year specifically for my spring paintings, a big tube, because I knew I'm going to use a lot of it. So I'm trying to refine shapes at this point on the first branch, on the first cluster of branches, I would say. I'm not painting every flower everywhere. I only paint flowers that the brightest. And I also use a different thickness of paint for that purpose on the ones that I want to emphasize. So I'm trying to try to see if I can make them even more dark, because when I squint, some of them are really dark. So I want to stick with that, plus some of them I can see background through. So I'll try to see if I can use some background color as well and go behind them. Sometimes that helps too, and not just helps, actually it's a good way of redefining your shapes. Go back with background color and go between leaves and flowers. I'm working with a softer brush. I started with synthetic brush. Oh, sorry, I have started with a big bristle brush because I find that I can fill in background tabletop quite fast with it, and then I go with the synthetic brush and softer brush. I think this one is synthetic too. It's a rosemary brush. Trying to squint. I probably will do a little more of that shape defining later as well. At this point I want to fill the block in my first one. So let me go to the most closest branch first. So I'm using white, and so originally I blocked it in, like I said, with combinations of viridian brown and yellow deep and white. So now I'm going into it and do the little flowers that I see the most. Not all of them, and of course I don't go to every single flower, just kind of trying to do the biggest one. And I'm trying to use like a variety of paints and different combination of paints, because you can see a lot in this flower. There is lots of reflection going into the branches and from branches into the flowers, so I'm trying to capture that as well. Plus there are some really dark leaves over there, so I'm trying to not to lose those, because they will give me good definition of flowers. So I'm going back and forth. And a little bit of background as well. At this point I'm using medium walnut orchid medium. Before that I was using a lot of Gamsol. Actually I think I kind of moved that branch, so I have to no, I'll keep it, just have to make it a little darker. So depending how light falls on these flowers, I'm trying to squint and see which ones are bright and which ones are in the dark, because on the same branch it could be all kinds of different story. Could be very dark, almost like green brown flowers, and could be very bright, because some of them already out and some of them still not completely, so some of them little buds. So using white and cut yellow light in this branch. Then I'm trying to wash my brush, because white really sticks and stays in the brush, so it can contaminate some of the leaves. So now I'm going back to upper branch. So this one is a little closer to me. And then on top there is a branch, so they're all kind of going in different directions. So this one doesn't have many open in front, but at the same time it has some already lost petals, so it's an interesting one. Plus it's kind of disappears. So I don't go like very bright on some of them, because I know that I will still have, I will see how it goes all together, and then I may go back and do more of that. So at this point I'm going to do some leaves that I have here. So again, I'll try this mixture that I liked. Picked a lot of brown in it though, so So it's emerald green that is very, very bright, and cadmium yellow deep. So that turned to be very bright still, so I'm keep adding yellow. The younger leaves are much more yellow and much more brighter. And those leaves are mostly at the top. So I'm going back to my background again. And purple is just like I say, it's a, I call it purple. To tell the truth, this background has all kinds of colors in it, and I try to keep it like that, multicolored. It has different shadows as well, depending on the fall, how the light falls on it. So I may, normally I check my background later, next day with fresh eye, and decide if I want to keep it the same or if I want to change it a little. So we'll see. For now I'm happy with this background, but I may change my mind next time I look at it. And I'll be going back and forth with background and with the leaves, kind of going from general to detail and back and forth. Because sometimes you put too much detail, especially the ones that at the back. You don't want to put too much detail on those leaves or plants. So I'm just mixing again more background, so I could go with background in between my keep some air in my branches. And actually I'm going with background in the one that even I painted, because I want to keep them kind of soft. These are still to paint, but I'll leave space for them. So actually the surface of my board is oil ground, but I put the boards together too early, too fast, and they got stuck together, so I had to repair them. But for now I can use it as for my practice, so it's not a big problem for me. And if someone wants this painting, I can tell them that this is the little defect on my surface that I can paint over, of course. But I learned my lesson, I hope. So there is some space in between here as well. So now I'll try to focus on branches again. So I'm going back with viridian. Some of them have little, very little kind of stalks in them, so I'm not going to do lots of those. But I may do some just to give an impression that some of them covered by the leaves, some of them open. Trying to look at the direction of these stalks and leaves. So I'm going to paint my branch again, the one that I kind of lost a little bit, because it gives me direction. Again, I'm not painting the whole branch, I only paint where I see it. And then go back with background color. And I try to keep my brush strokes soft at this point. Especially for the ones that in the very, like in the, not quite background, but the one that in the shadow. Again, the same as with branches. Leaves I'm also using, I don't put all leaves, I only use put the one that I see as shapes. Trying to squint and see. So I'm going to put stalks again, because these stalks give me an idea where the branches go. So this one has more green in it. Some dark green. So I have more like, they almost look like grapes. This is my top branch. Actually some green looks nice in it. I'm using different ends of the brush to give different variation of flowers. Because you don't have to paint every flower to give idea of what it is. If you give suggestion, it works quite well, I think. The main thing not to lose shape, and that's what I do sometimes when I paint. I start losing shape of what I paint, so the main thing to keep it defined. that background. I'm probably going to mute a little more, just to, because they are a little darker and they're not as defined. The same as on the other side, the one that, and the one that branch in front. I'm going to put more paint on my brush. And the same another one here. So at this point, I think I looked at them for a long time, so I'm going to go back to my jar. Give more definition. Like I painted, I hope, quite loose, so I'm not going to change what I achieved here. I'll just leave it as it is. So there is a leaf there. I'm going to go through the whole painting and just see where I can improve. Like there is a leaf here, and like I said, I'll probably paint more of the background as well. So there's some bright leaves here. Now I can do those. And this one's a little more brown. It's nice to paint something beautiful when it's snowing outside, like it's snowing outside in Calgary today. That's normal for Calgary. 20th of May, and it's snow. Good thing it doesn't stick to the ground. There's a good thing if you have good hobby that you can do inside. Then you're lucky. If you only like things outside in this weather, you can only go for a walk, really, not much to do. Unless you're a goose. Like we have lots of goose here who like this weather. And I have little chickadees nesting that using our wooden house, so they must be happy because their cottage is very good for this weather, and they put lots of different feathers inside of their cottage, so I kind of diverted from my painting. So at this point I just continue refining, so I probably will stop recording because there will be two parts. One part without when I started, and that part is without any sound, but it shows actually how I begin, how I do blocking with big bristle brush. I'll repeat again. I do blocking with big bristle brush and very thinly, and then I start big shapes, and then I start adding more details, and I take a little smaller brush. In this case I use synthetic one, and now I'm working with soft rosemary brush. So it looks like I use 3 types of brushes because I'm not trying to hold myself from going to the big brush straight away. So I hope you enjoyed watching it, and if you have any questions, let me know. I hope I will be able to paint more spring blooms. I have daffodils still, even though it's snowing. I have some tulips and some how's it called, pansies. Yes, I have apples blooming and cherries and double bloom plums. So I've been busy painting all those together. So I will show now my setup. So I'm very sorry if there was glare because it's so dark today. I'll try to actually bring this closer. This is how it looks, and I'm sorry for the glare again. So that's how it looks. This is my palette. It's a little bit messy because I was doing other things as well. I'm going to turn the light. So that's my greens, that's my browns, and this, I had some pinks for the other painting. And now I'm going to show my setup. So that was my setup. It's really beautiful branches. So I'm going to work on them more. Unfortunately, I don't know yet how I'm going to post it. Probably in front of the video I'll try to put the painting if it works. If not, you can see the final painting on my Instagram or Facebook. And thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.